You guys don't want to be on YouTube. Don't in front of this camera. Okay. Good morning, YouTube. Or is it you also? YouTube? Or you also?
That's terrible. Don't give him that.
I mean, I'm with Loretta.
Adversarial, just like that.
It's going to be a good show.
If you want your money back because Terry's not here, I would understand.
I'm going to more than make up for it. I
This is my daughter, Loretta.
I can't actually promise that.
And I'm going to tell you a short story about Loretta. I don't know if you do the book, so you might know this story, but I was when Dr. Harper retired downtown. He's a local guy that I was with for years as a dentist. My daughter gave me the name of a dentist that she was going to called LeCourrier and Amato. So I went, and then I got there, and they said, "We can't take you because you owe us money and you've never paid." I said, "I've never been here before." Well, somebody, it's Loretta, never paid for her appointment. So I had to pay her bill off in order to sit down in a chair.
I think the mileage you've gotten out of this story over the last 10 years has like really more than made up.
Interesting.
Yes, I did.
You were probably there. You're probably the one who said.
I was probably in the back of the clinic.
Yeah.
My goodness.
And so she's always been so embarrassed she's never gone back.
Oh, you're always welcome.
That's not true. I started going somewhere closer to my house.
That
But
apparently
mostly
was,
I
that
don't
was free.
go. I have to be drugged to go to the dentist. So mostly I just don't go.
I fall asleep. Machete Debbie.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say.
Yesterday I bought my hygienist is Machete Debbie.
Okay.
She's a little rough in there. And yesterday I brought her the new bloodthirsty peach from our farm. It's just kind of gorgeous fall bright red peach. Because who else but Machete Debbie would get a bloodthirsty peach?
Oh, did she get that?
Yeah, I peeled it for her and everything.
Oh my God.
Amato had a bite. So. Okay, shall we?
We shall.
Welcome also. Nice to see you again. I feel like I've met you before, have I not? No. I don't know. Iowa? I was going to say right down the road, but no. Yeah. I'm from Newark, Delaware originally. Like Illinois. It's not Illinois. It's Illinois. You don't happen to live in Des Moines here, do you? No, okay. That would be weird. I am about ready to. My mother just passed this last August, and we've had a family farm of 300 acres in Ulysses, Kansas, just the southwest corner of Kansas. And I've been looking at real estate down there and things like that to see if I want to keep the farm, buy out my siblings or whatever. And you can get a 6-bedroom house with 3 bathrooms in Ulysses, Kansas for $250,000. Yeah, but it is 9 hours to the nearest airport. Yeah. All right, welcome to the Hot Stove Society show on Cairo Radio. We've got a big show for you today. We're excited to be here. Chef Terry is still traveling the wilds of Morocco with his wife, Kathy. So into the co-chef seat is my daughter, Loretta Thea Douglas.
Nice to be here again.
Do you know what Rhodothea means?
No.
No? All this time, you're 32 years old. You don't know?
No.
Gift of the gods.
Really? I
Yeah.
thought it was a made-up name.
No. It's your grandmother.
I mean, I knew it was my grandmother's name, but I thought maybe that was a made-up name.
No, Grandma Dot, Rhodothea. That was her name. You're named after her. Sweetheart of a woman. We have a large show for you today, 2 hours. Hope you're going to hang with us in your garden or your car, your kitchen, or wherever you happen to be. Podcasting, straight up Cairo radio. We're coming to you from the Hotel Andra in downtown Seattle, 4th and Virginia, right above Lola and across the street from the Dahlia Bakery and Serious Pie. We love this corner in downtown Seattle. You can join us if you want and be part of our live audience. You guys are live, right? Yeah. Okay, good. Be part of our live audience by going to hotstovesociety.com, or you can watch us on YouTube on Friday mornings. I guess you can download it anytime during the week too, right? You can join us live on Friday mornings when we do our show here in the kitchens of the Hot Stove Society. We got October is National Seafood Month, and every year we try to talk about different seafoods, talk with fishermen. Today we have Andy Wink and Sam Mitchell. They're going to talk about Bristol Bay, what's going on up there. It's the apple harvest, so many varieties. And, last year we did a Hot Stove Society tasting panel, and the Cosmic Crisp out of 10 different Washington varieties, Cosmic Crisp came out on top.
It's definitely my favorite.
Is it?
Yep.
Yep. Molly Gilbert's going to be here to visit. She's got a new book out called Sheet Pan Sweets. And I remember we had her on the show when she did her sheet pan dinners. And so here she is back with a dessert variety of that same book. Sheet pan cookie is all over the New York Times. It's very popular. You can't put a sheet pan in your little air fryer
Well,
thing.
my little air fryer has a tiny little sheet pan. But no, I also cook a sheet pan, in my oven.
Do you?
Yes.
Are you sure?
I do use my oven once in a
'Cause
while, I promise.
Sadly, my daughter is an air fryer freak. Apparently, a lot of people are. I debunked that, on my evening.
Yeah, let's not get into it because you really did a crack job of debunking the air fryer.
Okay. Loretta is a big lover of rice cakes, so we're going to talk about rice cakes. It's funny as you grow up, I took you to dim sum quite a bit, and we got eating lobako, which is a daikon and rice flour cake that's pan fried, very gelatinous or glutinous. And so many people freak out over that texture, but because you grew up with it, you now crave it, right?
It is my favorite texture. So
Yeah. And then, of course, it's trivia time. Amy has taken over for Pam this week. Amy is our former producer who ditched us for bigger and better things, but is filling in this week while Pam's in New York City.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you. It's fun to be here.
Yeah. It's nice to have a reprise of your directing the show. Are we going to play trivia today?
We are.
Rub with love trivia?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I mean, we could do other trivia.
But no, Rub with Love Tasty Trivia is going to wind up our show. First, it's Taste of the Week. You want to go first?
sure. What spurred this whole rice cake thing is I recently returned for dinner to one of my very, very favorite Seattle restaurants, Jewel. And I hadn't been since the start of the pandemic, honestly, which was my bad. But in that time, I also had a baby and stopped going out to dinner. So I got back to Jewel, and their famous dish and my favorite dish that they make is a spicy chorizo rice cake, and they pan fry it, and the edges of those rice cakes get super, super crispy. And it was just as delicious as I remembered. And I was totally happy to have it back in my life.
So during our segment, let's try and break down how they did that.
Yeah.
If you could, because that's how I kind of taught myself how to cook, was going out to restaurants and then kind of thinking about, well, how did they get to this spot of the recipe, and how do they get to that Christmas level, or things of that sort. So
I want to know, because I've never been able to replicate it the way that they do it at home. So
my taste of the week is we just had an Etta's, named after you, Loretta. Etta's is opening in 3 weeks, November 1st or so, and we just had a tasting of the menu for the third time, and things are getting better.
yep, coming together.
And recipes are getting dialed in, and my favorite was the smoked brisket. So it's kind of like a barbecue theme. It's not kind of, it is. It's called Etta's Big Mountain Barbecue. And it's we're doing some smoked briskets, but we're not doing like Jack's. Jack's is very Texas and classic kind of Southwest Southern barbecue. It's not Kansas City. It's not North Carolina. Yeah. It's not any of those. It's my own version, our own version of kind of Northwest barbecue. But we do have some throwbacks, and one is the brisket cheesesteak sandwich, because I have cheesesteaks in my soul. Growing up on the East Coast until I was 18, so I have a lot of feelings about cheesesteaks, and I like the classic version. But now I'm going to make I'm going to break my own rule. Do something a
TBH.
little bit different. And we're taking the smoked brisket, we're slicing it fairly thin, and then we're giving it the quick sear after it's been smoked, putting it with the sauteed peppers and onions, and I love mushrooms, our veggie rub, which has got fennel-based garlic rub, veggie mayo, and it's just this decadent. It reminds me a little bit of a good pastrami sandwich that's got too much meat and not enough bread. So if you can eat it without feeling sick afterward, it's really good.
It's delicious.
In that world, I also have something that I had early on. I don't know where, but I'm totally stealing the idea of an onion stack. And it's
So
not like
good.
it's not like an onion that are stacked up, rings that are stacked up high. It's more of a shaved onion. That the stacking part is really that it fills the fryer and almost comes out like a brick. And so they're dredged in cornmeal flour and
Yeah, they're trashy
served
good.
with spicy ranch and
Love it.
so yeah, a good way if you ever are feeling really good about yourself and your weight and everything else like that, and feeling like you've worked out and feeling, come down to Edda's
Come down to
Barbecue.
Edda's. It's
Have
right
a
by a
brisket
gym.
cheesesteak.
It's right next
and-
to a gym, yeah, and have a little brisket cheesesteak and an onion stack. Okay, all right, let's keep on with our show. When we come back, it's peak of the season time for apples. What are we going to do? How are we going to make them? Let's do that when we come back on Cairo Radio. It's the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM. We on the time there?
I have no sense of time when I'm talking. Like it could be 30 seconds. It could
I know,
be.
but he'll
when
give
he
us
gives
the
the
two,
signal though,
then
but
just
even
look at
2
that
minutes,
clock,
I
yeah.
had that seemed I would have said like that was 4.5 minutes long
Oh.
after he said 2 minutes.
I'm pretty good because if you, yeah.
What if we took that down?
When you tell Terry we have 1 minute,
Yeah.
he starts a whole new monologue. Yeah. I'm saying you go. I've never looked at that clock honestly, but
Yeah.
because I do have that natural rhythm. for
Yeah.
it, but
But I can watch
you
it.
see the seconds on the bottom. So if it says 9:20 and 11, so 9:22 and 11.
Yeah. Okay.
What's so funny?
Nothing.
All right, we're back. It's time for beautiful Washington apples in the Hot Stove Society kitchen. Chef Loretta, or actually, you're legal counsel, Loretta. You're not really Chef Loretta.
Hey,
Uh,
moonlight.
you can moonlight, that's for sure. But she is our legal counsel at the company, so don't do anything wrong in this in this
Bring
room
down
here.
the gavel.
Yeah. We often have apples in our house. Your son, Hercules, will not eat apples.
Oh, he's into them now.
Oh, is he?
We've turned an apple corner recently.
Really?
And now the only way to get him to get through the grocery store while we're shopping is to give him an apple and let him.
You weigh it first?
So-
Or do you weigh him first?
No, but most stores will give a kid one piece of fruit for free while you shop. Hot tip if you have a baby.
And do they say so, or do you just take it and then they don't
No,
want it back
they-
after it's got
They
teeth
say
marks in it?
so, but every time I try to pay for it at the end, they say, "Oh no, kids, fruit free."
Fruit free? I
DCC
did
has
not
big
know that.
signs.
Yeah,
I'm going to start
PCC,
eating
Whole
an apple.
Foods, and Met Market, I think, all do it for sure that I know. So.
Cool. What are they going to do when you
And
hand it?
Town and Country, actually.
Good. Well, that's a good idea. I never knew that was a
So you
thing.
got to keep them entertained,
Yeah.
so you can spend more money at the store. It's genius, actually.
Yeah. The Washington State Tree Fruit Association on Monday projected the 2022 Washington State fresh apple crop will total about 108 million 40-pound boxes. That's an 11.1% decrease from 2021's total. We're pleased with the size of the harvest, particularly in the face of a long, cold spring. And that is really important. We all remember this spring when it was just cold and rainy every day. And what's interesting to me about all that is that right now at our farm on the east side, it is spectacular.
Yeah.
And the harvest is coming in right now like it's the beginning of August.
Yeah, it's weird to still be getting beautiful, perfect tomatoes right
Perfect
now, and green
tomatoes,
beans,
yeah.
and in October.
So, and apples, we just getting ready to pick our apple tree. as we drive, as I drive through the wine country there. So if you want to know where our farm is, if you go over the pass on 90 and at Ellensburg, you kind of take a right on 82, the interstate that kind of goes to South Central Washington. And there's 2 stops in the town of Prosser, Washington, 2 exits. We're the first exit. So we're right there on the Yakima River, and it's hot, right? And without the snowpack and the ice melt, we wouldn't have a farm because there's no irrigation water, and it's too dry over there to farm anything but sage
Rats.
weeds and rats. Yeah, sage plants and rats. We call them sage rats. They're not really a rat, but they're just about that same size, and like a groundhog. Anyway, apples are hanging and apples are being picked. When you drive over there on 82, you are constantly, I mean, literally, if I spend 40 minutes on 82, I will go by 40 trucks filled with apples.
And what treetops over there? Right?
Everything's over there. And they're all going back and forth because a cold house, say in Yakima, downtown Yakima, will bring in apples and apple varieties from 10 different farmers who have contracted to hold their fruit. And then, each of those farmers has different varieties. And so you see all these boxes, right? They're huge pick boxes on the back of these semi-trailers. And they're just filled with, a variety of apple from a certain orchard. And it's just going everywhere. So it's quite spectacular. Right now, there's apples. The best thing to do is when you see a truck full of bales, like they're plastic coated, what looks like hay bales, but they're plastic coated bales of fresh dried hops. You pull in behind the truck and you go the speed the truck is going, you just stay there. And the smell of the hops blowing back off of that truck is unbelievable.
I can't wait. I'm going right after the show today.
Yeah, because your nature is you want to just pass that truck and just get where you're going, but just take a minute, pull in behind the truck that's going at 60 miles an hour, and just open your windows and let the smell of the hops just engulf your car. Apples, Cosmic Crisp. Why do you like them?
I love a super, super crisp apple. To me, that is my number one criteria. The moment that an apple is like a little bit soft, I'm out. So I was a diehard Honey Crisp person, and I still, if I can't find a Cosmic Crisp, that's my next choice. But a really cold, really crisp apple is how I want to eat them every time. And Cosmic Crisp I find to be kind of the most consistently super crisp.
What I found was that the Honey Crisp was that they were crisp also, but when the Cosmic Crisp came out, they had a better flavor. They were more appley.
They're more appley. Yeah. They're not just straight sweet. They have that kind of more, I think, a little bit earthier flavor too that I like. So, yeah.
I'm not sure what the time frame is, but I think every 10 or 12 years they cut or pull the trees out of an orchard and replant.
Really?
And that's all about yield on crop and getting the new varieties in. But I think they said Cosmic Crisp went from 0% of the crop 5 or 8 years ago to it's now well over 10% of the crop, if I'm not mistaken. So it's
4.6%, up 3.2 from last year.
Yeah. So I mean that's quadrupled in size the crop from last year, and that's how they do that. Is they just yank the trees and just start over when they have a hot variety. And a lot of that's coming out of Washington State University, their programs. On horticulture.
They're constantly working on new varietals and hybrids.
So, there's other crisp apples like Granny Smith's, but they also are very tart.
Very tart.
Some people
and I
can't
do
deal
love
with
Granny
that.
Smith apples also, but I'm not like a huge regular apple eater. I know a lot of people pick one up, every day, and I'm more in the berry family of my everyday fruit. But peak of the season when you pick one up and it's perfect, there's few things that are more delicious.
When I walk the aisles of the grocery store, I'm still amazed at how much apple juice and apple sauce and things like that are on the shelves. It seems so easy to make applesauce. Personally, it's you don't even have to core them, but I just take the little core seed out, pop the whole thing in, skin it all, and just put for maybe a quart of apples that are cut up. maybe 2 ounces of apple cider. There's no water. 2 ounces of apple cider or 2 ounces of apple cognac, like Calvados.
Mhm.
And I just put my lid on and put it on low and slow and just let the moisture from the apples steam the apples. And then you just run it through a mill and you've got applesauce. So easy. Season
I
it
know,
any way
but
you like.
My 1-year-old crushes like 4 pouches a day of applesauce. I'd
Really?
be making
God,
applesauce
it's so
every
funny.
day.
He never used to eat any of that stuff.
I know. Yeah. Every day something new. But yeah, he's very into applesauce pouches right now. But
Uh-huh.
I can't keep up with making applesauce that fast.
Why not?
Be there all day.
Uh-huh. Apple crisp, do you make those?
I do make apple crisp. My favorite apple dessert is a tarte tatin, classic tarte tatin. It's so delicious. I know that it's not the most showcase the seasonal apples because they are coated in caramel sauce and things like that. But for me, that's peak apple dessert.
Apple tarte tatin. Have you made them?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's your trick to having it? A lot of people, when they turn it out of the pan, the apples kind of get
All the apples
kind of
stick
move
and
around,
move
or
around.
it's too soupy, one or the other.
I think it's beautiful when you do the really thin sliced apples, but I keep my apples pretty chunky in there. Also, because I like the texture when you get like a nice big bite. Sometimes when you do those thin slices, they just mush a little bit. Looks gorgeous and fancy, but I want to cut into a big piece of apple.
Yeah, I do too. I want, if my tarte tatin is say 2 inches thick, I want 1.5 inches of a big chunk of apple
I
that's
totally agree.
decidedly a bite and not like I don't want it to be applesauce.
Yeah.
So I want it to be still have some texture left to it. So I actually have never perfected it. It's one of those things. I know you find that
Mom makes a pretty
hard to
good one.
believe that I haven't perfected something, but
Shocking.
shocking. It's great having my daughter on the show. I sure miss Terry. Okay. Yes, your mother does make a beautiful one, but she's a little bit more patient than I am. It's National Seafood Month, and today we're talking to the folks from Bristol Bay, both fishermen and the executive director of the Bristol Bay Regional Seafood Development Association. So when we come back, it's all about Bristol Bay salmon on Cairo Radio. It's the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM.
Shocked you didn't talk about our apple cider slushy.
Oh my God, I should have.
I mean,
Pike Place Market,
Pro
apple cider
tip.
slushy. Pro tips. So good.
it was like mood changing.
Where was it?
We left.
It's one of those like outside stands that's on.
It was amazing.
But it was booze or no booze?
No booze, but
Would have been great with.
now that we know,
We were at work.
yeah.
Yep, you can come on up. Aim's going to share her microphone with you. One can sit there. One, there's a chair right there if you want to. Oh, right over there. You can have that. Sean's going to set you up with a mic in your face. This one can come up a little bit, I think.
Just want to be about.
Scoot, Sam, scoot all the way in because you want to be right here. Listen to the difference. Here I am now. Here I am now.
Test.
So you hear
Test,
the difference?
test.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you did that. I thought I'd turned it on with my leg again.
John, can I have a saute pan, please? Oh, never mind. Found one.
What are you making? Salmon?
Let's see if you can do that in the middle of one of our
I don't know.
segments.
fish.
I'm not going to.
It's annoying that you make that look that easy because I just freaking butcher my fish every time I try it.
So do you know how to cook the salmon so that this part doesn't cook so much faster than this part? But you have to take the skin off to do it.
Just fold it under.
Now
Why
it's
not?
all even across, right? And then the rest.
That simple. And if you have a really big piece, you can butterfly it open.
Right, exactly. Or do baseball cuts sometimes. The problem is somebody gets the really good belly part. I don't have enough room in this pan for all of these.
You want a bigger one?
No, I just need enough for everyone to have a taste. Yeah, either way.
You always leave it on, or do you ever leave the skin on?
Oh, I often leave it on. I just, a lot of people don't know that trick about how to cook it more evenly.
Yeah. Good idea.
Okay. Annie? Amy, in that bucket over there in the center of the, Amy? In that bucket in the center of the table, there's a meat thermometer. One of those pop-up ones, which I like. Digital, red, perfect. Try not to melt my microphone. If
Now
it
what-
wants to come up, just pin it with a toothpick.
And what temperature do you like to go for?
In the center, I'm a 120.
Okay.
Which I'm not a rare salmon person. I'm more of a pull it at 120 and let it residually heat until 125 or so. And Amy, one more thing. I need a fish back. All right, we're back in the Hot Stove Society kitchen on Cairo, and we're cooking away here. We have a beautiful piece of Bristol Bay sockeye, a whole side that our friends have brought from up north. It's October is National Seafood Month to celebrate local fishing organizations. The Port of Seattle and the Seattle Propeller Club have joined together through Seafood 101 campaign. Today we welcome Andy Wink.
Thank you.
He's the director of Bristol Bay Regional Seafood Development Association, and Bristol Bay fisherman Sam Mitchell. Did you catch this fish,
I
Sam?
did.
Oh, it's beautiful. Very, very pretty. I'm trying to show this way of cooking it here. If you were watching online, you could see what's going on here, but I didn't pin down my belly there. So the goals of the campaign are to encourage folks to eat more seafood and discover its nutritional value, also to highlight the commitment to sustainability and to celebrate the economic value of the maritime and fishing industries. The economic value is something that works for me to understand the process. When I've worked on Bristol Bay issues, trying to stop Pebble Mine and all those kind of things, it's always for me, the thing that drove home the way to think about it is the economic nature. You have to put a business around this fishery so that people choose the fishery instead of mining, right? So if you don't give people the opportunity to make enough money to feed their family or to put their kids in school, they're going to choose something that does, which is not necessarily good for the world or the earth. So
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, the fishery is so well renowned because it is a commercial venture, and that actually, I think, even helps us protect the resource in an odd way. In Bristol Bay, we've seen fairly consistent runs, whereas with some fisher or some areas where you don't get that commercial business around it, sometimes the runs are a lot more variable and really boom and bust. So we're very fortunate in Bristol Bay this year. Had a record harvest, which is saying something.
70 million fish, I heard.
So yeah, almost 80 million fish returned. Fishermen like Sam caught about 60 million. And the previous record was about a little under 45. So
Wow,
flew
that's a
way
huge
past it. I
increase.
mean, wild salmon are still thriving in Bristol Bay, even today.
Mhm.
So.
And, there's other areas of the Northwest that aren't feeling that increase. And so it begs the question, are some of the fish from the Canadian coast rivers or other Alaska rivers heading towards Bristol Bay because of water temperatures or this or that? Have you figured out why it is that there's so many Bristol Bay salmon?
It's a good question. I mean, it's still more theory at this point, but a lot of the Bristol Bay sockeye that come out from the rivers, they're going out and mixing in the Bering Sea, so they don't tend to travel real far south. At least that's what we think. There's actually a research cruise that happened this summer, so we're waiting results from that.
Good.
Yeah, so that'll be very interesting, where they tried to sample salmon way out in the ocean, see where they
And
were.
do they do that by
coming and
DNA,
going.
or what do they do? How do they track?
Yeah, it's mostly genetics. They
Uh-huh.
can kind of tell what stock it's from. Yeah.
Interesting.
The genetics in Bristol Bay are pretty fascinating. They're able to track, based on looking at a salmon, which river it went to. So salmon aren't just going back to the bay; they're going back to the exact. There's 14
Right.
rivers up there, so it's pretty fascinating.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
And I would have no idea how that works, other than they can do it with us too, I guess.
It just seems like they should have less DNA, but there's no reason for that. Other
Yeah.
than I never thought about fish DNA before.
What else is going on with the Bristol Bay? I've worked with the Bristol Bay Native Corp. You are part of a marketing side of this. What else is going on up in Bristol Bay?
Right.
And where do we stand on Pebble Mine?
Yeah, well, let's talk about Pebble first. We stand in a good place with Pebble. The EPA is reviewing its 404C proposed determination. And so there's a few steps involved in this, and it gets pretty wonky real quick. But basically, we feel like we're getting to a point to where the EPA is going to say you can't mine, you can't have a large-scale mine in this particular area. We want to protect the salmon. And so they're going to set up some criteria and pretty strict criteria around what mining could be like in the Pebble deposit.
Because part of the problem is not just the mine itself, it's access to the mine and housing for the workers and all that comes with a mine, right? So, and the tailing ponds are the big issue.
Yeah, when I think about it, that's my big, red flag is this big pit of extremely toxic chemicals that are just held back by a wall of earth.
Right.
That need to be kept there forever,
Right.
which is a long time.
Yeah. if you talk to an engineer, that never happens.
That never
So,
happens,
yeah.
right? And we've seen when it doesn't work
Over and over,
up in
yeah.
Canada and Brazil and Australia and all kinds of places where dams have broken that we're never going to break. And of course, up there it's built on a fault.
Yep.
So, Bristol Bay sockeye from a national perspective, how's it going? Is it? I mean, Copper River really kind of led the way, for many of us to learn how to market these seafoods nationally. How's Bristol Bay doing? Is it starting to be recognized?
Yeah, we're in thousands of stores around the country. Really, these days, if you see sockeye in your grocery store, there's a very good chance it came from Bristol Bay. I think we're about 75% of the Alaska harvest this year. Bristol Bay is really kind of the foundation and first story of Alaska's salmon industry. So it's pretty crazy. But in a state known for salmon, 50% or more of the dollars that are generated come from Bristol Bay in the Alaska salmon industry.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's been really cool for me. I started fishing in 2008, and even just in that,
You look too nice to be a fisherman. Doesn't he look like a computer
you're not
science person?
You're not the only person to have told me that. That's get me in my bibs though. I might look a little different.
Where's the scruffy beard? and
Yeah,
all
that's
that kind
right.
of
Well, I
stuff?
Well, they're
just-
also healthy. They clean up really nice.
Yeah, yeah. If you saw me on July 15th, you wouldn't.
Okay.
I would look just like a fisherman.
I most
smell like
certainly
a
would have
fisherman.
smelled you first.
Right. Yeah, that's a fact. Lost my train of thought. What were we?
Been fishing since.
Oh yeah,
2008.
just in my time going up there, it's so cool to have seen Bristol Bay salmon represented, called out in stores, and just 15 years ago that was not happening, and
Right.
that's so intimately tied with the value of the fishery too. That's obviously we think that's cool too, but yeah, just the recognition for the public, and seeing Bristol Bay called out in public has really, it's night and day, even 10, 15 years ago and now.
Yeah, and so many times people ask me, especially in May when the Copper River comes out, it's like, is it really better, or is it really worth it, or all that sort of thing. And I just want them to think about it from a different perspective, which is that Copper River helped put a more true value on beautiful wild fish. For a moment in time there, for many years, that fish was worth less than hamburger from Eastern Washington on a desert plain. That fish, this beautiful, wild, delicious creature, was undervalued so drastically. And that's what Copper River, more than whether it's a better salmon or not, what it did was it created a better environment for wild salmon to be appreciated.
Absolutely.
And kind of a path forward, right?
Right.
I mean,
And that's Bristol
yeah.
Bay's following
and
it.
Yeah.
Bristol Bay's followed that with tens of millions of pounds. I mean, prior to 2009, only about 20% of the fish was chilled in Bristol Bay.
Yeah.
Now that's over 95%. We're
Yeah.
chilling
And
almost
and
all
chilled,
the
what
fish.
you mean is so caught live, bled, and iced,
Right.
rather than going straight to a cannery.
Well, yeah, or rather than going straight into a fish hold that doesn't have chilling.
I see.
Yeah, I mean, these guys have put in RSW units, refrigerated seawater, in their boats. Just about all the boats have them. That's like $50,000 to $70,000 that they're making the investment
Mhm.
to make premium fish like what
Right.
you're seeing today.
So even if it's going to a cannery, it's still a better product going to the cannery, is what you're saying.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about it like that.
Yeah, it's that's totally related to what we were just talking about, but it's amazing just in the last 10, 15 years, the amount of fishermen that have gotten on board with this quality. And it's funny, growing up in a fishing family, there was always kind of a it was too bad that Copper River was getting so much more money for their fish than us.
Right.
But that really,
You're
like,
the poor cousin.
exactly, yeah. But what you were just talking about is totally the what Bristol Bay has kind of latched onto. There are certain things that you have to do if you want to increase the value, and
Right.
Copper River was really good at that right from the beginning, and it's taken us a little bit longer, but we're getting there too.
And it needs some work still. I mean, some
Oh, yeah.
of the fisheries, or some of the fish I have to give back because they're just not handled properly. And so that's going to be an industry up there that has to be dealt with in the Copper River. I imagine part of it's because so many fish are coming in so fast that it's puts pressure on your handling techniques.
Yeah, and I mean 60 million fish, but caught mostly in a span of about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Is where the majority of it comes. So it is really hectic and frantic, and we are, as an industry, working on how can we be more efficient, how can we put the best fish in the market every year that we can. So I think we've come so far,
Right.
and we've still got a little ways to
I guess
go,
just I'm
but
saying as a
it's
chef, I just
exciting,
think
yeah.
we got to continue down the path of quality, because sometimes once you've thawed out fillet, which most of it is sold frozen, let's be real, you want it to be pristine, and like the one I just
Want it to
had
be like
today
that?
was
Like that one, yeah.
yeah, that's not how they always come.
No, you're right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Pristine.
just a volume context, there are certain boats that in a span of 24 hours they will catch 50,000 pounds of salmon,
But should
sometimes
they?
more.
And I think that's more my question. Should
Yeah,
they?
no, it is a question of how the fishery runs, on
Yeah.
a macro level.
I get it, but at the end of the day, you want good quality. When we come back, let's talk about what it's like to be on the boat, and to the excitement of getting ready for the season, and do you ever cook it yourself, or you're going to have a little bite here today? I did with my taco rub. So when we come back, we'll talk about that on Cairo Radio. It's the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM. So just so you know, I'm not trying to cut you off, but it's hard with three. Just giving you the heads up.
I'm interested in listening. So.
No, after this. That was a lovely background voice. We're back in the kitchen on Cairo Radio. It's the Hot Stove Society show, and we're talking Bristol sockeye salmon with Andy Wink, Executive Director of Bristol Bay Regional Seafood Development Association, and Bristol Bay fisherman Sam Mitchell. And this is all in celebration of National Seafood Month, this whole October, representing organizations like the Port of Seattle, the Seattle Propeller Club, and lots of fish. Ken's over here. Ken's been with us for many years during this month, and so we always look forward to seeing him. So we heard a lot about Bristol Bay. Let's go right to the fishing boat. Okay, you have 2 weeks. And I would hesitate to say that you have to make your annual living on those 2 weeks. But I think people say, well, 2 weeks, that's a lot, not very much work. But you have to set up your boat, right? You got to do everything. What's it like to be a Bristol Bay Ranger?
Yeah, it kind of feels like what I imagine people who were prospecting for gold 100 years ago, that kind of scene. You go up there, and where your boat is based is a place where you can't drive to. So you got to fly in or take a boat. And it's different from anywhere I've ever seen. I remember looking at the boat for the first time, realizing that I was going to live there for a month when I was 16, and I almost, started crying. It's like, it's hard living, you're living in a bunkhouse, and you're eating in a mess hall, and you're, working all the time. There is a really cool sense of community up there, though. It has a totally different feel from anywhere else I've ever been, again, like that gold rush kind of thing where everyone's here to, for the same reason. And it's really special. It's always a bit bittersweet for me going up there because, it's when everything is getting nice here and I'm going up there to, not, hang out on the lake or whatever, but it's the sun sets at 11:30 at night and it rises at 4 a.m. Some nights it never gets dark. And yeah, you're up there working for a couple weeks, and you're about to leave the dock, and then once you do, there's no commute. We have a radio and we have a cell phone. There was a little bit of email access this year. That was a new thing for us, but you're pretty much just out there, and your life just turns into fishing for 16 hours a day, maybe more, and then you sleep a little bit, you eat a little bit, you might read for an hour, and you just keep doing that.
And then when you get the call to stand down, which is something that's pretty well known in Bristol Bay, where it's time to let the fish get through 100%. You look forward to that, I bet.
It depends. I mean, most of the time, once it gets hot and heavy, you don't really stop. There are exceptions to that, but there have definitely been times when in the middle of the season, it's like, oh man, a break would be great right now. But for the most part, once you start, you're just kind of going. So,
are you a gill netter? What do you?
Yeah, Bristol Bay. So all Bristol Bay it's a gill net fishery, and the maximum boat size is 32 feet, which is cool. That it's really an equalizer.
So you can't have somebody out there big just raking it all in.
Exactly. And I will say the boats. There's boats from 50 years ago that are still being fished up there, and a 32-foot boat from 1975 is much smaller than a 32-foot boat that was built last year. But still, that's a powerful regulation.
All right, so now you've brought 30,000 pounds of fish onto your boat. What do you do? Because you can't. That can happen in a day, right?
Yeah. So our boat we don't have that kind of capacity. So you're talking more 10,000 pounds.
10,000. What do you do now?
So they're all kept in holds, which are basically just, you put a board on top of it, you can walk on top of it on the deck, and they're kept in floating seawater, and the seawater is constantly pumping. They're kept at 33, 34 degrees, and you fish until the time says you have to stop or until you're full, and then you offload your fish to a bigger boat.
To a trawler of some sort.
Usually,
not to a trawler, but a factory.
Usually it's a crab boat. A lot of the deadliest catch crab boats will do that in the summertime. And then this is a process that has really improved in the last 10, 12 years, that same time period we were talking about, where the fish is it's cut up within a very short amount of time, 12, 24 hours. And so the whole time, after it gets out of the water, it's all about getting it, keeping it in rigor and all those things. And that process has really improved over the last 10 years. So yeah, it gets offloaded to a bigger boat, and then they keep it. And
Do they run it to the dock or not?
they'll either run it to the dock or a floating processor. They have
Okay.
big 400-foot floating processors up there also. So yeah, it's a whole
And you turn around and go back out.
exactly over and over and over again. So yeah, usually twice a day we'll offload the fish to a big boat, and then you might take a little nap after you drop your fish off and do it all again.
Interesting.
Sam and about 15,000 other people.
Yeah, yeah.
It'd be hard to
That's a
keep
lot
your
of
fish
people.
straight. And so you have to really be concerned as a fisherman if you want the highest value for your fish. It's probably all commodity, but in the perfect world, if you want the best value for your fish, you want it to be handled perfectly. And
Yes.
so you have to pick out your processor, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that is, these fillets obviously look good. We're pretty happy with it, but that is there are things that happen that are outside of your control as a fisherman. Because, like one of those big terms that is that you hear nowadays is like frozen at sea and things like that. It's great that's more of a thing now also. But again, with the 32-foot boat limit in Bristol Bay, there's no freezing on board. There's no cutting. You can't cut a fish on board while you're working. We catch the fish, and that's what we do.
Exactly. Well, we're really thankful as restaurateurs. We're part of the economy around that fishery, right? So by us taking it and celebrating it and selling it by brand, the Bristol Bay sockeye, we're helping that economy to make the fishery more manageable and more valuable to the locals, which is what's important to me, is that we're getting maximized value out of the fishery so that those folks don't choose mining instead.
Well, and we're really, for me
It's
to
a
find,
vote.
It absolutely is. It's totally a vote with your dollars kind of thing. And, to hear first time that I heard that you were so involved with Bristol Bay was really exciting for me. And we're really, thankful for that, because those are the kind of things that change what we're trying to change. So
Right. Good. Well, should we try the fish that you brought?
I'm ready.
Annie, can we have some forks, please? Oh,
There's a plate.
okay. So I cooked the fish. I put on taco rub seasoning. So I've got 3 or 4 different ones that we kind of call out for fish in my rub line. The salmon rub is the best-selling salmon rub in the world. Did you know that? Right here in Seattle.
Not.
And so this is the taco, which is kind of 4 mild chilies with a little bit of lemon and lime powder. So it's a little bit citrusy. And Annie, if you would take this over and put some taste together for our guests that are in the dining room. And you can tell me later how perfectly it's cooked. So what I do is I take a meat thermometer, a digital meat thermometer, and I pop it in the middle of the fillet. And I'm looking for about 120 or so degrees. Or at 115, I turn the burner off and I leave the pan on the hot grate so that the residual heat warms the fish through. Because when you try to cook fish too hot on both sides, you can't stop the cooking, right? It just wants to continue to cook because of the hot heat. So if you let it warm through, you end up with that little moist center that people always are saying to me, my fish is always too dry. Well, you're cooking it too hot, generally is the case, in my opinion. So I put my meat thermometer in the center of the fillet, 120 degrees or so, let it rest to 125. It'll cool off faster than, say, a steak does. When you always hear about letting a steak rest, the salmon it's not as dense of meat as the steak, and so it'll cool off faster. So, anytime, we'd love to try that while we're on the air here. It's a 2-hour show, I know, but
Could we talk a little bit about where folks can get
you bet.
Bristol Bay sockeye? Yeah, so if you're not in studio with us, and you can find Bristol Bay sockeye really anywhere around town. Buy it from fishermen like Sam, but we've made it easy for people. Go to find.bristolbaysockeye.org. You put in your zip code, and up will pop options that are near you, in your state, in your neighborhood type thing. So that's really
near
cool.
you in a grocery store, but they can also get it online, right?
Right. So actually, when you put your zip code in there, and we're not keeping any of these, so don't worry. But basically, it'll show you fishermen that are around you that sell directly, like Sam. It'll show you grocery stores in your area that carry Bristol Bay sockeye, as well as online places you can find it as well. So,
I don't know if I could buy from Sam. He's not grouchy enough,
Yeah, you want an ornery
I
fisherman?
want an ornery
experience.
fisherman. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here.
And then, if you don't want to cook it yourself, we've got a great salmon week coming up, November 14th through the 20th here in Seattle. So you can find Bristol Bay sockeye being a special menu item kind of around town at a bunch of restaurants. And I think the easiest way is just, again, find the website, Google Seattle Bristol Bay Salmon Week, and you'll see it there. A lot of
Perfect.
great restaurant partners in that.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. We've been talking with Andy Wink, Executive Director of Bristol Bay Regional Seafood Development Association. Jeez, that's a long title. And
Brisda.
fabulous Bristol Bay fisherman, Sam Mitchell. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you very much.
When we come back, it's time for sheet pan sweets with. When we come back, it's time for sheet pan sweets with Molly Gilbert on Cairo Radio 97.3 FM. Is it not what we're coming back to? Oh, okay. When we come back, Molly Gilbert, author of Sheet Pan Sweets, joins us for 2 segments to share her simple, streamlined dessert recipes. Loretta shares her enthusiasm for rice cakes. And of course, we play our Rub with Love Food for Thought trivia on Cairo Radio. It's the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM. Hey, Shonda, Tori, when you listen to this, will you edit out some of my chat with Annie and Fish? I'd rather get the last part of that interview in to this in case you have to cut a little bit out of that. Thank you. Sean is our studio guy who does the editing.
Does he work for you or
No, he's with Cairo. Yeah. Yep, you bet.
Where do you want us?
Just right next to Tom.
Right, you can get it.
If you really want me to look like a Bristol Bay fisherman, I'll get some fish blood on my face.
All right.
Sure, yeah, why not?
That new phone thing there, Ken. It's like-
Yeah.
I heard they actually work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks, fellas. Good job.
Really appreciate it.
How's your fish?
It's really good.
I'd sure like to try a
She
bite.
sounds really surprised.
I'd sure like to try a bite. I'd sure like to try a bite.
I love the taco seasoning idea. I've never thought about that.
Yeah,
I've done the
fish
vegetable
tacos. Yeah.
and the salmon rub,
Yeah.
but I've never done that. I've got some.
Oh, good.
I'm-
Maybe our fisherman would like to try a bite. What are you saving it all for back there? You see that little translucent center? That's what you're looking for. For our video.
Yeah.
We're ready right now.
Okay, great. You just did a great job explaining. Maybe we just get that part about how I know it's done and talk about it.
Okay.
We'll do that segment today.
Well, are you going to be on camera or not?
No.
You're just going to ask me.
Yeah, I'll have a little title slide up with the logo and stuff, and then promote that on Facebook, Instagram, and then do a launch right away.
But you don't want to say it live. You're going to put it on the tile.
Just say, and then we can reinforce by saying, I often get asked how I know.
Okay.
it's done.
All right. Can we have quiet on the set for a minute? You know, I often get asked that question about how do you know when it's done in the middle of a piece of fish? And it seems so logical to me, but a lot of people don't even think about it. Almost everyone has a meat thermometer in their kitchen drawer. Pull it out. It works on fish too, works on anything. You can stick it in your body and find out you're 98.6. But so you put it right into the middle of the fillet. When it gets to be between 115 and 120, whether you like it a little bit more rare or a little bit more medium, 115 for rare, you simply turn the fire off when it gets to 110 on your pan and let it sit there and warm its way through. Don't pull it off the heat. So at 110, if you want it rare, it's going to take it to 115. Just turn the fire off. Residual heat is your friend. The thing you can't do with fish, because it's such a non-dense piece of meat, is that if you cook it on high on both sides, when you pull it at the temperature, you can't stop the cooking. It's like pulling a steak off a hot grill. You can't stop it. That's why we always say rest the meat. So same with fish. Put a thermometer right in the middle of it. I cook to 120, let it rest to 125, and you have a beautiful translucent center. If I want sashimi, I'll go eat raw, but I don't like it too rare when I'm cooking it personally. Still, after all these years. No, I put it in down at my warehouse at Mallory.
Oh, nice.
Well, most of it came off in the pan, so because I put it in too cold, but
That one. Salmon
it's got a
roast.
sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sure are. Hi, Molly. Welcome.
Meet you.
Sue.
Oh, my pleasure. I'll have it. Yeah.
This is Loretta. Chef
We
Terry's
match.
in Morocco.
So you can sit or stand.
He said if you're going to be on the show, he was going to Morocco.
Tom likes to stand.
Okay, no, thank you.
Okay. Okay. So my old neighbor is Gigi and Steven.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Your what neighbor?
My neighbor. Well, we just moved, but Gigi and Steven were my neighbors.
Oh,
and
no
I was
way.
like, yeah, and they're like, tell
God, I
hi
haven't
to
seen them in
Tom.
years.
I
So
know.
crazy.
Yeah.
I just saw them the other day. Told them I was
How
gonna
are
be-
they?
They're great.
Good?
They're good.
Yeah, good.
Steven was 80 years old when he was 30 years old. So is he
He's
still
like
80 years
30
old?
now. Yeah. He's got like a foot issue. He's okay, but it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah.
He was always an old man for his age. You can sit if you want. You can stand if you want.
I'm happy to stand.
Take out my book.
I already did. You want it?
Well, yeah, that's the one I wanted to ask about.
Okay. Better look it back up. Welcome back. It's the Hot Stove Society show from the Hotel Andra in downtown Seattle, the beautiful Hotel Andra. I love this place. Modern Swedish decor is what Craig, the owner, calls it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I recently stayed here.
Oh, did
the
you?
remodel is lovely.
Is it?
Yes.
The rooms are nice?
Rooms are beautiful.
Good. You know, we trade $1,000 worth of food a month for $1,000 worth of rooms a month.
I know.
And
I took
oddly-
advantage of one night
Oddly,
of
he
trade.
always uses the food and we never use the rooms.
Well, I did, and it was great.
Good. It is the Hot Stove Society show. Loretta is sitting in for Chef Thierry, who's in Morocco. Thank you for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
You have a big segment coming up next after this one.
Very nervous.
Very nervous. Right now, we're going to talk to Molly Gilbert. She is the author of Sheet Pan Sweets and used to be the author, or still is, I guess, the author of Sheet Pan Suppers. Sheet pans are very she these days.
They're all the rage these days. I wrote sheet pan suppers almost 10 years ago now, and
Really?
people are still talking. You know, home cooking on a sheet pan is still a very popular thing.
Well, I
so-
think Melissa Clark on the New York Times,
Yep.
she lives on a sheet pan.
Yeah, I pretty much do too. So I get
Do
it.
ya?
Yeah.
Are you just thinking about the next book? Is that why you live? Do you use a quarter sheet, a half sheet, or a full sheet?
I use a half sheet and sometimes a quarter sheet, depending on how
'Cause
big I'm going.
In the restaurants, they're called sheet pans in the restaurant business, but
Right.
at home they're called cookie sheets, right?
That's right.
And so sometimes people get confused. Well, I don't know what that is. And
Right. Well, you
that's
got to
what-
be careful that you're not using a cookie sheet for some of these recipes because there's no lip on that,
Cookie
around the
sheets
sides.
don't have an edge.
I see.
Right. You need the edge for these recipes.
Okay, so tell us about how you got started down this path. I know, are you a mom?
I'm a mom of 3 now. All of a
3.
sudden. Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I have a 3-month-old at home.
Wow.
So
But sometimes
It's
these
busy.
fast recipes or these simple ideas come out of necessity, and that's why I was asking.
yeah, well, so 10 years ago, I was not a mom, but I was living in San Francisco and I was writing on my food blog and doing a number of different food related jobs. I was teaching some kids cooking classes and I was off of.
You must be a saint.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a good time. And I was like just luckily hooked up with this editor who she had the original idea for doing a cookbook of sheet pan meals. And so we kind of fleshed it out together. I thought it was brilliant because, as you know, restaurants use sheet pans all the time, but I don't think home cooks had necessarily taken advantage of all the benefits of cooking on a sheet pan. So, we fleshed out the idea. I, wrote this cookbook and off we went.
And from a restaurateur's perspective, I have to wash these sheet pans when they're done, and I
They're
love
pain.
parchment paper.
Yes, that's right. That's one of the first tips is line that sheet pan maybe with some foil, parchment, whatever you have.
Right.
Yeah.
And then where do we go from there?
From there, I continued blogging and then I wrote my second cookbook, which is called One Pan and Done. So I didn't want to be boxed into being like the sheet pan lady.
Uh-huh.
So I expanded and kept the idea of still like one pot, one pan, easy, fuss-free, for the home cook, but pulling out your cast iron dishes, your Dutch ovens, all the other pans in the arsenal.
Right.
And then the sheet pan suppers has a dessert section, but it was pretty small. And I love baking. I'm a baker and I have a major sweet tooth. So I really wanted to flesh out that chapter. And so Sheet Pan Sweets was born.
Do you have favorites? Where do people start?
I do. So my favorite is actually the cover recipe. It's this very swoopy chocolate frosting. It's called Jack's Chocolate Chip Cake. It's a classic sheet cake, super nostalgic. My 3-year-old son, Jack, wanted it for his birthday.
Uh-huh.
And it has this really rich fudge frosting on top, which is just...
Totally looks like something my grandmother made for us growing
right.
up.
It
Yeah.
looks like that perfect lunchroom. cake
Exactly.
that would
You
get.
can't go... It's one of my favorites in the book.
So I'm going to stop you for 1 second. You said it's a classic sheet pan cake. So what is that?
So it's just a sheet
cake.
Yeah, it's just one layer in the sheet pan. You can serve it right from the pan.
Mhm.
It feeds a ton of people, which is one of the benefits of baking on a sheet pan is like you're getting an entire tray of dessert. So, this time of year, if you have a holiday thing, if you're like have a school bake sale, this is kind of going to be perfect for your back pocket.
I see. If you're an old Seattleite, you remember Borachini's Bakery, which was famous for their sheet cakes, right? And those are all layered cakes, but those were all made in sheet pans and then emptied out and put one on
So
top
I've got
of the
a
other.
chapter for
There's a
that too.
few of
That's the next
those.
chapter.
Yeah.
So you can do the layer cakes. You can cut, you bake it just in one pan, which is great. You don't have to pull out all the round pans or, all the different kinds of pans. Just one layer of cake and then cut out your circles or squares or whatever, stack it up. And in that chapter, there's also rolled cakes as well. So you can get a little bit fancier with it, but still the same idea of you're just baking one cake.
Isn't it funny how rolled cakes, they create the ooh moment when it's
that's the
really,
one-
you know,
that's the one I had bookmarked that I wanted to talk about because I saw pumpkin tiramisu roll, and I'm generally in charge of Thanksgiving dessert at our
Mhm.
house, and I immediately put it aside and was like, all right, we need to talk about that one because that might be the Thanksgiving dessert this year in our house.
Definitely. I actually just made that one yesterday for a demo that I was doing live, and I went to go turn it out like towards the camera, which I don't normally do. I
Uh-huh.
normally do it toward me, and it just like kind of sadly slid out and
Oh.
cracked. And I was like, okay, this is not what I was going for. But we patched
How
it
did you
up.
recover?
It was fine. I just kind of slid it back on the sheet. I feel like that one gets a thick dusting of cocoa powder on top, like a tiramisu, and that just like hides all the
Hides
sins
the
that you don't want
crack.
anyone to see. So it was all good.
what's the booze in that one?
Rum,
Rum.
yes.
Yeah.
But you could use vanilla if you don't want to use booze.
Oh, we want to use the boost.
You can use any kind of booze.
We want those children to go to sleep
Oh,
at night.
yeah.
That's right. I did let my kids have a little bit afterwards, and I was like, I don't know if this is the wisest choice, but they liked it.
They like it, I'm sure. And then we only have 2 minutes left. So any other favorites in there when somebody buys your book?
Yeah.
Perfect Christmas present or pre-holiday book. you
Yeah,
know?
there's a bars section. So like a giant pan of brownies or blondies. I have a s'mores blondie recipe in there. There's a cookie section. There's even breakfast and a couple bread recipes in there. There's like a challah, for maybe Hanukkah, the holidays.
Uh-huh.
A
You make a
focaccia
challah
bread.
in a sheet pan? That is radical.
So radical. Yeah, there's in the breakfast session, I love, instead of like scooping out muffins individually, you can make a blueberry muffin cake or an apple fritter cake. And yeah, there's a ton in there. And I hope people really like it, especially this time of year.
Well, it's so it makes you just want to get in the kitchen because it doesn't look intimidating, right? A
It's
lot of
not-
baking books.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
I mean, behind sheet pan cooking in general, but yeah, the idea is that they're accessible, they're easy, they're relatively streamlined. A lot of them you don't even need a mixer, just a bowl and a whisk. So yeah, that's the idea. Get people in the kitchen baking.
You have 3 kids. Is there a recipe that you let them help you with in the book? Because
Well,
my grandson, Hercules, loves the kitchen.
oh
He
yeah.
loves tongs. So what could he do with tongs?
Well, let them do the cover recipe. Make that chocolate chip cake with the fudge frosting. It's just as 2 bowls and some spatulas, whisk, get them in there going, mixing the dry ingredients, and cooking with kids is always a little bit messy, but I find it's always slower than you want it to be, but
Right.
it's worth it in the end. They get the memories, you get the cake, it's all good.
Yeah. And it's never too early to indoctrinate them.
Nope.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Gilbert.
Thank you.
And go out and get the book. What is it again, Loretta?
Sheet pan sweets, simple, streamlined dessert recipes.
By Molly Gilbert. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you, Tom
your time.
and Loretta.
When we come back, let's talk rice cakes, a different kind of cake. What's the matter?
We have 2 segments with Molly.
Oh, do we have 2 segments?
Wait, what happened?
Well, let me go back.
I
Our
think we have
producer let
2.
me screw up. I'll blame it on her.
I think you're here for 2 segments.
Oh,
I'm
you
not
are.
Cake, sheet cake.
Okay. Normally I break that up a little bit. So Sean DeTore, let's go back and what did we just say?
Kids in the kitchen.
Oh, kids in the kitchen. So let me go back and kind of jump in from there. So Molly, it's never too what did I say?
Early.
No, I didn't say that. I
To
said-
indoctrinate them.
Yeah, there you go. It was brilliant, whatever I said. It's never too early to indoctrinate your kids. Let's talk about that when we come back on Cairo Radio. It's the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM. Sean, you're going to have to really work on this one. Sean in the studio, not this Sean.
I want to talk more about the
All right,
breakfast.
jump in there.
All right. You going to intro it in?
Sorry, Molly, I totally.
Oh, no worries. I was just rolling with it.
Where's rice cakes? Is that 3 and then 4?
Really?
Like ceviche. Okay, we're back. It's the Hot Stove Society Show. We're in the kitchen with Molly Gilbert. What do you got there, Loretta?
Well, I am looking through the chapter right now on breakfasts. And as somebody with a small child, I am always looking for kind of quick breakfast ideas. And he loves baked goods. I mean, loves pancakes and things like that. But I mean, sometimes that feels like a lot of effort for a weekday morning. So
Totally.
I'm hoping you have some tips and tricks on quick breakfast. I love the idea of baking muffins just in one sheet tray instead of scooping them individually. So
Yeah.
what do you do at home?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. One of my favorites for like make ahead kind of things is sheet pan pancakes. So you can make a whole
No
tray full
way.
of sheet pan
Really?
pancakes. Yeah, that's right. I put the butter on the pan and put it in the oven so that the whole pan and the butter gets really hot. Whisk up the batter, put it on the hot pan and into the oven, and then it kind of
Almost
just-
like a Dutch baby, right?
almost like
Where
a Dutch baby,
you-
but it doesn't puff up like
Puff,
that. It
okay.
just kind of gets nice fluffy pancakes, and then I cut them into squares. And your kids can customize the toppings however they want. My kids really love chocolate chips. If you want like bananas, strawberries, whatever, just sprinkle it on top, and then cut them up into squares. And you can freeze them in the freezer. So have them that morning, whatever's left over, because you'll have a huge sheet tray worth of pancakes. Just freeze in a Ziploc bag or whatever, and then you can just microwave them a la carte in the
Whenever you
mornings.
want.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And do
Well,
they
I'm doing that
brown? I
this
mean,
week.
do they brown on the top?
Slightly, not that much. They're it's more the texture is just like light and fluffy
Fluffy.
and kind of what you want in a pancake.
And do you give your kids real maple syrup, Molly? That's the real question. Come
I
come
do.
clean.
I do.
There's no log cabin in your house.
'Cause I give them we have a budget for maple syrup and it goes quickly.
It's a line item.
Right.
In your
What
monthly
else in that
budget.
breakfast chapter intrigued you?
The other thing that I was looking at is the wreath.
Oh
Because
yes.
that looks like a perfect having friends over for
Mm-hmm.
brunch recipe. It is I just lost it here.
It's a cinnamon nut wreath. Yeah. So there's a cinnamon nut kind of filling that just comes together really quickly in the food processor. And I use store-bought puff pastry for that. So
Really?
it makes it quick and easy. And it looks kind of complicated with the braid, but you're really just like layering the pieces of puff pastry on top of each other to get that kind of braided look. But yeah, that's a really good one, especially for the holidays. Just leave it out. People like take slices throughout the day, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden it'll be gone.
Mhm. And the puff pastry still puffs when you use it. I mean, I use store-bought puff pastry all the time.
Mhm.
It's way simpler than trying to make it yourself. You just have to find one with real butter in it.
Yeah,
But it's still puffs.
it puffs. Yeah, it doesn't like totally puff so much that it like looks kind of weird and
Uh-huh.
gets too flaky that you
Uh-huh.
don't want to. The shape of the wreath kind of stays intact, but it does puff a little bit. Yeah.
I'm making that. I had 2 brunches last weekend, one with friends and one with cousins, and each time I ended up at the bakery buying croissants. So
Ah.
You could
Because
also-
something didn't turn out.
no, just
It
because
ran out of time.
I ran out of time, but
Mhm.
this looks delicious.
There's a recipe in there for a cinnamon roll poke cake. So like instead of making a whole bunch of cinnamon rolls, you make a sheet cake, poke holes in it, pour the cinnamon kind of filling on top, and it kind of seeps down into the cake, and then you top it with like cream cheese frosting on top. So it's like get that cinnamon roll vibe without having to roll and cut and like shape
My
all
husband
the
will be
cinnamon
all
rolls.
in. Cinnamon rolls are like his.
So that sounds
favorite.
like something too that what's important when you're making brunch and things are the things that you can make ahead, right? Because
Yeah.
a lot of pieces to pull together.
Absolutely. You could make that the night before and just serve at room temperature, or you could like ever so slightly warm it in the oven or even in the microwave pieces before you serve it.
So we talked for a second about before the break about indoctrinating kids into the kitchen.
Yes.
Loretta's kid, I'm not sure what you call him, but my name for him is Hercules. He is from the very beginning, from like months old, was fascinated by the hot stove, the fire, the barbecue, working the tongs, flipping things. And I would hold him and he would
It
flip.
seems on brand for you.
Well, I don't know where he gets it from, but he is fascinated with it. So at what point do you start to include your kids in baking these desserts, and what jobs do you give them that they can't mess up?
Yeah, honestly, as early as they're interested, I would say. I got one of those kitchen stools that has the sides around the edges so that they're sort of contained in the kitchen. You put them up against the counter and they can't really fall over or whatever. I recommend one of those.
So you're not supposed to hold him in your left arm.
Over the
Over
hot,
the hot
splattering
flame.
oil.
I hold
what
him
he
with my
does.
hand on his chest and his back legs straddling my arm, and I hold him over the stove.
Last
You
time
know,
they were
whatever
works
babysitting,
for
I
you.
got this video and it gave me a heart attack of Rory just
But he has the
hovering over the
tongs.
flame.
He has the tongs over. Yeah.
He's learning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
He's
like
flying.
the stool method, but whatever works for you. I find like they just like to kind of feel involved. So whether you're handing them a whisk, spatula, especially if you're baking. Sometimes I give them their own little bowl of like just random ingredients that they can mix up, and if it doesn't actually make it to the table, that's okay.
So you mean having him chop the pecans wasn't a good idea?
If Hercules can do it, that sounds awesome.
still
Like,
has
I'll
all his
take all the help I can get.
Miraculously.
Yeah. They have these like cool kind of plastic kids knives that are serrated that I bought for my kids, and they seem to really like it on like veggies, cutting up before dinner, and just sort of anything that gives them that,
Well, and I
feeling
find
of-
he's more likely to eat things if he's
absolutely.
participated in
Yeah.
the making of it.
That's the
for
same way
sure.
with gardening too, right?
Yeah.
If they grow the carrots, they're going to eat the carrots.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love having kids in the kitchen. It's both stressful and rewarding at the same time.
Okay, how about for booze hounds like myself? What kind of sheet pan dessert? We talked a little bit about the pumpkin cake tiramisu.
Yes, there's a
It may or may
pumpkin
not have a little
tiramisu
rum
roll.
in it.
Yes, I'm trying to think through the other ones. I mean, you could add booze to like all kinds of cake
course you
recipes
can.
and stuff in here, right? There's a tres leches cake in there. You could add a little booze if you
Uh-huh.
wanted to.
A
It's
little
not.
mezcal in there sounds a little smoky good.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I can't remember
Okay,
all
that's
the
all right.
boozy cakes, but I'm sure there are some in there for sure.
What are you making for Thanksgiving?
For Thanksgiving, I will probably be making the pumpkin pie bars. My family is very like specific about what they like and don't like on Thanksgiving. We've had these traditions for years, and like nobody wants the boat rocked at all.
I think that's reasonable.
I think
I'm
so
the
too.
same way.
Yeah,
For one holiday a year.
right.
Yeah.
It's like I like what I like. Don't mess it up. But I'm usually stuck making like 4 pumpkin pies. But this year I might try and make the pumpkin pie bars. So it's just basically this, giant pumpkin pie with a graham cracker pressing crust instead of rolling out the dough. Hopefully no one will really notice that it's different, but that's my plan.
Uh-huh. And Loretta, what are you making for Thanksgiving since you're
Well,
in
I'm
charge
making
of
this rolled pumpkin cake. I've never attempted a rolled cake before. I am
do
always
it on live TV. It works really
fascinated
good.
in the Great British Bake Off by
That's
the rolls that they make, and it looks really difficult and intense. But I might attempt this pumpkin one, and then I like a pecan pie the most probably. So I
Ice
hope to
cream or
make
whip?
One of those. Whip.
Whip.
I'm not a
Molly, are you
big
ice cream or whip
A
on
la
most
mode
of your desserts?
person.
I'm probably ice cream. I
cream.
a la mode it. Yeah.
I'll emote it.
What about you?
I'm probably a whip person.
Yeah.
If I have a bowl, I want a bowl of
just
ice
eat.
cream. You
Yeah.
know, I don't love it.
Yeah.
And especially don't love it on hot things. I don't like when it gets all milky on my pecan
I agree with
pie.
that. I agree with that. That's true.
Temperature pie.
Well, there's also pecan pie bars in there too. So if you didn't want to
Oh,
make the pie,
perfect.
I mean,
Or to
basically
feed
any
more.
pie like that, you can make
Yeah.
into a bar, right?
exactly. Mm-hmm.
In a sheet pan,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because the name of the book is called Sheet Pan Sweets. Molly Gilbert's the author. You can also find her sheet pan suppers out there in the world somewhere. And you said you had a third one?
Yeah, one pan and done.
One pan and done.
And are you still blogging?
Not so much with,
Okay.
with the 3 kids right now, but hopefully more in the future.
All right.
I find myself, I love a one pan dinner.
Me too. I mean, the fewer pans, the fewer dishes you have to do.
I do the dishes in my house. So yeah.
So
But
there
it's,
you go.
it's funny. Jackie and I differ that way. She loves a pan for everything.
Mhm.
And I just,
Well,
I'm-
she knows you're doing the dishes.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, Molly, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. Have a good holiday season.
You too. Thank you
Hope
so
your
much.
book sells like crazy. If it's like my book,
Congratulations on the baby.
Thank you.
how long has it been?
3 months.
Oh my God.
I have 6, 4, and 3 months.
6 4 and 3 months. She wants a second.
Go for it.
Yeah,
It's fun.
Go for
It's
it.
fun.
All right.
All right, when we come back, let's talk rice cakes on Cairo Radio. It's the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM. Okay, Sean, good luck.
Thank you, Molly.
guys.
That's
Thank you,
great.
Molly. You sent him a little note. Uh-oh, Sam's back. What'd you forget?
How do you say that? The Korean chili sauce gochujang?
You're so phonetic. I'm not the right guy to ask on that.
Molly's going to join us for tasty trivia.
Oh, nice. Isn't that salmon pristine? It's just such a beautifully clean fish. Yeah. People always say, I don't like salmon. It's like, How can you eat that and say I don't like salmon? It's like this.
Yeah. I wouldn't have thought to put the taco seasoning on it, but it really enhanced it.
And it would most of it stayed on my pan. So normally, no. It's just I needed a little bit hotter pan so that you get a quick sear on it, and then I could finish it in the oven or something to keep that rub from sticking to the pan. The stickiness of the lemon and lime powder that I use, it's really interesting. Like sometimes you open that jar and it's like a brick inside that you have to get a rolling pin out and kind of break apart. Once you do that, it's fine, but it's very sticky. It's like dried vinegars are very sticky. I like that. Rice cakes. There's nothing.
I didn't send Pam anything in advance. So. Your show sheet's empty. I just told her what topic.
How to spell chunk.
Gochujang? CHE. No. EONG. I think so. We have to go to New York to go to this place that I was looking at this morning that only sells chow fun.
Chow fun is different than chung fun.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. This is chung fun.
Chow fun is like this.
Yeah. I believe.
At HK, they have that. HK has that, like,
Mhm.
up north, and I always get it there.
But even them, they're only searing it in a hot wok with soy sauce. They're not really getting the crispy on it. Right, Ames?
Right.
You're going to jump in anytime here? Do you want to jump in with rice cakes? You have any favorites?
Are you? Well,
Do you have a favorite rice cake?
I really love when they kind of like toss the
Yeah.
are you talking about like crispy rice cakes at all? The ones that we would have at Taco?
That's
That kind of
what,
rice cake? Or are
Like
you
the
just-
pressed,
That's-
actually cooked rice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Oh.
we at like at Tanaka-san. we make
yeah,
those
we're
rice
happy to do
cakes.
that.
I miss those.
Every time we go out to eat, we always get any sort of
Any kind of rice cake.
crispy rice cake.
I have a lot to say. I've done a lot of research.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm like, she's been talking about it all week.
All right, it's the hot stove kitchen right here. We're in the middle of it, having fun with our guest here today. You've got some quiche, you got some cantaloupe. What else have you had? You had some salmon, lots of bites here today. Loretta Douglas is here, guest hosting for Chef Terry Rotaro, who's probably having himself a little Moroccan supper right now. It's about that time of day, isn't it? Where he's looking at maybe having a little dinner, 8 hours, 9 hours ahead of us.
Yeah.
So good
First
for him.
dinner. First dinner of the night.
No doubt he'll have a little harissa on it because that's his favorite spice. Let's talk rice cakes for a few minutes. You know, kiddo, I took you out to dim sum a lot when you were a youngster, and some of my favorites, the lobako, which is the kind of daikon radish rice cake, rice flour cake, nor my guy, which is the sticky glutinous rice wrapped in the lotus leaf and then steamed. And you and I would always fight for the lup chong, the little
Sausage
Chinese
in the middle.
sausage in the center. But you got in tune to this kind of texture, which so much food is about its texture, right? Especially some of the things where people are passionate about. I got to have that because it reminds me of my childhood or it reminds me of this or that. Tell me about your love of rice cakes. And if you have today, I mean, I know what I still make, the chung fun noodles, which are the rolled tight, wide rice noodles made right here in our own Chinatown. With the green onions in them, and then we pan fry them until they're crispy. So tell me about that and why it's important to you.
Yeah, I don't know when it started, but this texture just became something that I really consistently crave, that chewy kind of stick to your back teeth a little bit texture. And I know it's particular. Some people love it, like
It
me.
freaks some people out, yeah.
are really freaked out by it. But as I got more and more into it, I kind of started finding and seeking out this texture in all different regional cuisines, different
Mhm.
types of food. And I was saying at the top of the hour that I recently had my favorite dish from Jewel in Seattle, which is their spicy rice cake. And they have those more Korean style oval cut rice cakes that they are pan frying till they're crispy, and then they're in a delicious sauce with chorizo. I got super excited last week. I was shopping at Trader Joe's as I do, and they have introduced a tteokbokki in their frozen section, which is kind of the traditional Korean preparation of the long cylindrical rice cakes in a gochujang sauce. I haven't actually made them yet. My husband doesn't love tteokbokki, so I have to wait for when he's out for it. And I was super excited to see that. I've bought them frozen before at the Shoreline Town and Country. Has a few varieties. I love Japanese mochi, all different ways of finding that texture. And so I wanted to chat about it today because I've been experimenting a little bit more with making it at home. I've never made the rice cake itself at home, although I've now watched a few videos. And it's doable, it looks like. So I might try that and make it myself. But it's interesting to me how this texture has kind of evolved, especially in Asian cuisine. But it's used in different ways. Like it's most frequently a sweet in Japanese cuisine. Mochi is typically sweet. It's very savory in Korean cuisine. So I just look for it everywhere I go now and love it.
So the one that we have most often at our house is called Chungfon, CheongFun, Chungfon noodles, and you can buy them at the place that I see them most is Shoreline Central, but you can buy them at Wajimaya, a lot of places that have big noodle selection, and they will sometimes be in the refrigerator and sometimes just sitting out in a basket by the refrigerated section. It's just what we call a fresh rice noodle, which is funny because I guess it's not. When you think of fresh pasta, it's still made from dried wheat. And so fresh rice noodles are literally just kind of ground rice, pearl rice into a milk and then gelatinized, it kind of cooks it in a steam bath. And I went down to Chuchang Noodle Company with our summer campers one year. Were you with us, Amy, on that day when we went to the Henry family at that time owned Chuchang? I think they've sold it since, but right next to the unfortunate Fortune cookie baking machine was the pearl barley kind of, I hesitate to call it a grinder, but it's more of a washer that washes the rice, and maybe it's ground. I don't know.
It's grinding.
Yeah.
I watched this video, which is now like top of my list restaurants that I need to go visit is Joe's Steam Rice Roll in New York, but he makes the chow fun noodles, the steam noodles that you often see at dim sum. Those wide rice noodles that are wrapped around different things, sometimes
shrimp
pork
or
beef,
yeah.
sometimes the Chinese donut they put in the middle. But they make it, and he takes the boiled rice and puts it through a grinder at his shop, and it comes out as this milk. And then, speaking of sheet tray meals, they essentially steam it on a tray, add the ingredients in the center, and then roll them up and cut and serve them. And I wanted to eat through my phone. It looked so good when I was watching it, but that also has that same glutinous texture. Most of the other ones that I've seen are pounded. You develop the gluten in the
stickiness.
The rice cake.
It's not really gluten, but it's stickiness. Yeah.
By pounding it. Mochi's pounded. The Korean rice cakes are pounded, but that one is just steamed and it still gets that texture.
The one that I did on the opening menu of the Dahlia Lounge 34 years ago, my salmon preparation had lobako. I would make homemade lobako, which is literally a rice cake, but it's rice flour that is mixed with daikon radish.
Turnip, right?
Yeah, some sort of turnip or daikon or whatever, and dried shrimp. You can put a little minced pork or green onions or whatever it is that you want to add to it. Classically, it's dried shrimp and green onions, I think. And then you steam that whole sheet pan of lobako or daikon radish cake. And then when that's done, You simply pan fry it
Pan
to
fry.
order, and that's what's my
And I think
salmon
you-
set at the
Really?
Dahlia
I don't
34
remember
years
that.
ago. Yeah,
I wasn't there.
no, you weren't.
But I think you and I really gravitate towards that glutinous texture, but then add in the crispy.
Right.
Because I always order lobago to go at dim sum, and I take it home and I pan fry it super hard because it's never as crispy on the edges as I want it in the restaurant. And same thing with that. What I love about that jewel rice cake, or what I love about the changfun that you make for breakfast frequently at home, is maybe slightly less traditional, but that really, really crispy edge with that soft, chewy center. And I think sometimes it's hard to achieve. I can never get my little oval ones as crispy as Rachel Yang does at Jewel.
Really?
But
Well, she's probably got a real wok there. So your burner at home typically would be 15 to 17,000 BTUs. The burner at Rachel's wok would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 90,000 BTUs.
Okay.
So you can just accomplish. It's, you know, hers sounds like a jet engine. Yours sounds like a kitty cat meowing, right?
a
So
purr.
it's just the difference in equipment.
Okay.
A way to get to that kind of glutinous area very simply is to take something like Calrose rice, right? The Nico rice,
Uh-huh.
which is very typically used in sushi,
Mhm.
where you cook the rice. And in sushi, they simply fan it and mix it with sweet vinegar, rice vinegar of some sort, and then develop the stickiness. You know, when you have nigiri, right? The rice
Yeah,
is like a little
sticks
sticky ball.
together.
Well, that ball, pan fried, crisp up so nice on the outside. And you can season the rice itself with anything, a little ground star anise. So you have little licorice rice
Mhm.
cakes, green onions, of course. Make it as spicy as you want with some sambal lelek or something like that. But just pan fry those in peanut oil or vegetable oil.
Do you compact them at all? Like, do you
Yeah.
press the rice together?
Do you remember back when Wild Ginger was, we used to go there quite a bit, and then with the satays, you'd always get the little rice cakes.
Rice cakes. Okay.
And those were just rice cakes,
Mhm.
whereas then you just take those and pan fry them,
Okay.
and you get that crispy edge with that glutinous kind of
Okay.
center that you like. So
It's the same thing. Din Tai Fung, serves the pan fried rice cake on their menu, and I always do the same thing of I order it for home, and then I sear it really hard
Right.
when I get home to get those crispy edges. But when we had Tanaka-san, we always had just that pressed rice, actual Calrose rice, and then pan fried. And it's one of the dishes I miss most from Tanaka-san.
Also,
It was
pressed on a sheet pan.
yeah, exactly.
Pressed on a sheet pan. Perfect. And we served it with nori and like a Kewpie mayo, I
Kewpie
think.
mayo and
Yeah.
maybe Tobiko.
Okay.
Tokyo
The last
spice.
place I had daikon radish cakes, the ones that I was talking about, they make them in the sheet pan. They cut them up in little squares. You know where Ranch 99 Market is up in Linwood?
Yeah.
Around the corner, so the north side, there's a place that does chicken, I want to say. And there's another restaurant there, and I can't tell you the name of it, but they sear little chunks of those radish cakes with XO sauce, which is very fishy and garlicky, and
That sounds amazing.
it's amazing. And again, I was trying to explain to the waitress, I was trying to talk slow so she could understand me. And in the wok, it's just, if you could just give it a little extra time, I like it crunchy. She says, "Oh, you want it crunchy?" She just talked back to me in perfect English.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, what an idiot I am. Anyway, it's time for Food for Thought Tasty Trivia, brought to you by Rub with Love Spice Rubs. And
Dun,
Molly
dun, dun.
Gilbert sticking around in the corner back there because she thinks she can take us down in our trivia challenge. When we come back, it's the Hot Stove Society Show, 97.3 FM. Thanks, Molly. Right back to where you were.
I hope it's rigged this week, Amy.
Yeah.
You know how I get
Pam
around
did-
that? I just
yeah.
jump in and go first.
Pam did come up with these, but I did change one just for you.
I can't wait.
So, Molly, we'll let Loretta go first so you know how this all works. Yeah. If you don't get it right, it's Amy's fault. If you do get it right, you're super smart.
And are we going to play for an audience member today?
Yeah, I think each audience member gets to choose their own jar of rub today.
Ooh,
sauce.
oh yay, for the whole audience then. We're
All
playing
audience.
for the whole audience.
Are you going to be able to handle the gift store rush after the show? Okay.
Don't get trampled.
I better. We're rounding up the show here at the Hot Stove Society Kitchen on Cairo Radio. It's Tom Douglas
Loretta Douglas.
sitting in for Chef Terry, and Molly Gilbert of Sheet and Sweets has decided to stay back in the corner. She loved our show so much that
Couldn't
she
leave.
hung out here for the rest of the hour. She's going to join us as our next victim in our Food for Thought Tasty Trivia Challenge, brought to you by our very own line of spice rubs and sauces called Rub with Love. There are 20 dry rub flavors, 4 tangy sauces, and a spectacular, if I do say so myself, toasted shallot mustard. They're great additions to any pantry. You can find them in stores all over the country like Whole Foods, Sprouts, Central Market stores in Texas, Texas Central Market, all of our local grocery stores. Bartell's has them now. And of course, you can find them right here at the Hot Stove Society Show. Okay, Amy, tell us how to play the game and who we're going to play for and how long we have to hold the L up on our forehead when we lose or when they lose.
Okay. Okay.
So-
Well, team, I'm going to ask each of you 5 different culinary questions, and the audience, the entire audience, is going to be the winners today, and the loser
Has to buy it.
has to buy it.
So I start as the loser.
You're pretty much always the loser.
How we like it.
So they get to go over to the gift store
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
pick one rubber
Supermarket
sauce.
sweeps.
Yeah.
There's like-
Cookies.
Amy and I have been dying to do a supermarket sweep.
Oh,
but
really?
Maybe we'll just do it of Rub with Love.
Great. That's awesome.
All right. So, Loretta, I'm going to start with you.
Oh boy.
Okay. So, number 1, what is the covering of a Battenberg cake made from? The
Don't look at me. Oh, Molly knows. Any hints for her, Molly?
covering.
The covering is made from marzipan.
Yes, it is.
Oh. You know how many gallons of water it takes to grow one almond?
No,
1 gallon of water
per almond.
per almond.
Wow. So I should move over to cashews.
I don't know.
Okay, here is a multiple choice one.
Uh-oh.
How many crocus flowers must be harvested to produce 1 ounce of saffron? A, 250, B, 1,000, or C, 4,500?
So saffron's the
Yeah,
stamen
the
of a
little
crocus.
Stamen and 1 ounce.
1 ounce.
I'm going to split the difference and go 1,000.
Sorry, the correct answer is 4,500.
Wow. That's a lot of work.
That is
There's a lot of
work.
tweezers going on there.
Okay, why did Idaho potato farmers set fire to 5 million pounds of potatoes in 1970?
70.
Did Pam write these? This feels like a Pam question.
Because all the bras were burnt already.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That's good.
I don't know.
To raise the crop price by limiting available supply.
Oh, okay.
Here's
Classic
one that I
supply
put
and
in for
demand.
you.
Okay. Give me.
This
give
is
me
definitely not a
softball.
Pam. How many shapes do McDonald's chicken nuggets have?
Don't tell me you know this
I
answer.
don't.
Oh, okay.
How
good.
many shapes do McDonald's chicken nuggets have? Because they probably put them through a machine to get a certain number of different shapes. 6.
4.
4.
And they have names.
Really? Tell
The
me.
bone, the bell, the boot, and the ball.
Wow.
So next
Learn
time you have
something
your
new
nuggies.
every day. Next time I eat my nuggets, I'll be looking for the specific
Alright.
shapes.
Okay.
Well, that did not. This is not going great.
I'm sorry. Vanilla pods are part of which flower family?
Grace Jones had them in her dressing room because I got them for her personally. Not the pods, but the family.
Lilies?
Ooh, close.
Orchids.
Orchids.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Loretta. You did 1
Yeah.
out of 5.
1 out of
Great.
5. Yeah.
I'm never
Molly, we
coming
have
on
a
again.
chance.
I only knew one of the answers.
Molly's
so
gonna
we're-
dust me.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, Molly. Multiple choice. Who is this quote from? If you really want to make a friend, go to someone's house and eat with him. The people who give you their food give you their heart. A, Benjamin Franklin, C, Cesar Chavez, or I'm sorry, B, or C, Barack Obama.
I'm gonna go with C, Barack Obama.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was Caesar.
I thought he only made salads.
Yeah. All right. Kiwi fruits originated from which country?
Sorry, which kind of fruit?
Kiwi.
Originated from Australia.
Is that your
Close.
yeah, China.
Oh, close.
Australia's close to China, but I was thinking New Zealand.
Yeah, I should.
They do call them the kiwis.
Yeah.
What is the innermost layer of an onion called?
The baby onion.
The core? I don't know.
The apex.
The apex.
Wow, these are hard today.
Yeah.
These are super hard. Normally it's
Zero
not like
for
We're
three.
actually learning something today.
Well, there is a note that these are from Kelty's trivia book.
Ah,
Okay, number 4. Why were pigs replaced by dogs in truffle hunting?
Because
Why were pigs replaced by dogs?
because maybe the pigs were eating the truffle.
Yeah.
Woo.
once you got
I got
going, once the hog gets going.
Which one of the following ingredients would you not find in a full English breakfast? A, baked beans, 2, mushrooms, 3, broccoli, or 4, bacon.
I'm gonna go with broccoli.
Ding, ding, ding. Yay. All right.
2 out of
You're
5.
smoking, Loretta.
Wow.
You doubled up on
I'll
Loretta.
just
Yeah.
sit here with the L on my forehead.
Okay, Tom. Cats and chickens cannot taste, true or false? Cats and chickens cannot taste sweetness in the foods they consume.
Totally true.
Totally correct. All right. Multiple choice.
When you don't know, be loud and argumentative.
How many almonds are needed for 1 pint of almond oil? A, 200, B, 400, or C, 1,000?
For 1 pint, 16 ounces of almond oil. I'm going to go with the middle one.
1,000 would be correct. What?
That's a lot of almonds.
1,000 gallons of water needed to produce
1 pint of
1
almond oil.
pint of almond oil.
Okay.
What is the folk figure Johnny Appleseed known for?
He is known for eating so many apples that he turned red and delicious.
So close. Planting apple trees to make hard cider.
Okay.
Wow.
This one might be a Pam. Hens, true or false? Hens lay heavier eggs when they listen to classical music.
Totally true.
Totally true.
What's with the chicken question?
I know. That's the nugget one again.
I know. Okay.
Last
Here.
question, right?
Last question.
This is
For
for
the
the
win.
For the win.
What is the name of the firm base that connects a corn ear to the stalk?
The cob.
No. It is a shank.
It's a shake.
Yeah.
Shake, shake, shake.
Shank.
Shank.
Oh, shank. Oh, so it reminds me of my golf game. I just have to remember that. The shank. Okay, so we have
So
a
that's
tie. So our audience members are all winners whenever there's a tie. So you each get to go over to the gift shop and pick out a rubber sauce of your choice. Yay!
Yay! Supermarket sweep.
If you want to be lucky like our current audience members, just go to hotstovesociety.com and buy a ticket. $30. Comes with breakfast. Delicious Annie Elmore breakfast. Or she's going to be Edna Mode for Halloween, just so you know. I'm thinking about coming as the dude, her husband. Or is it her husband or her son-in-law?
Oh, I'm unclear.
We'll have to ask that. If you want to be part of the show, join our community on YouTube Live at Tom Douglas & Co. or buy a ticket to join us at thehotstovesociety.com. You're listening to us on Cairo Radio 97.3 FM. The show is produced today by Amy Richardson. Technical is Sean McFadden, and our technical and our sound editor is... The show is produced today by Amy Richardson. Sean McFadden is our technical director, and our editor is Sean Don't Call Me Del Torre. Also, remember, if you missed any episode of our Hot Stove Society show in Cairo, You can listen via podcast. Just subscribe with your favorite podcast app. Loretta, thanks for sitting in for Chef Terry today.
Thanks for having me.
Molly, thanks for being a good sport in our trivia. All right, that's good. Okay, quiet on the set for 1 second. This afternoon on the Hot Stove Society radio show, we talk about Bristol Bay salmon with fisherman Sam Mitchell and Bristol Bay associate Andy Wink. The glorious apple harvest is happening right now in Eastern Washington. Molly Gilbert's here with her new book, Sheet Pan Sweets and the Soaring Possibilities of Rice Cakes. So good.
One take, Tom.
Yeah, there you go.
Soaring. I love Pam.
Baby, I just need one good one. Tell me that you'll be the good one. Baby, I just need one good one to stay.